What's going on, guys? Ryan O'Toole back here again for another highly anticipated video to kickstart off the year 2020. This is my year-long tradition that I do on my channel every single year is go through my entire Blu-ray collection. If you guys are new to the channel and you really enjoyed this video, if this is your first time checking out this channel, please hit that like button and subscribe button for more reviews, reactions, rankings, and more movie content. Guys, I have almost 500 Blu-rays, 486 titles to go through here, so I'm not going to make this almost 2 hours long. I'm going to try to get through this as quickly as possible, show you guys all of the movies and TV shows I have on Blu-ray. It's going to be a fun time, guys. Please let me know in the comment section down below if you really enjoyed the video, what Blu-rays you have, etc., etc., and let's have a blast doing this. So, without further ado, let's start the shenanigans. We're going to start with TV shows first. It's going to be really quick. I have Game of Thrones Season 3 and Game of Thrones Season 4. I don't have the full series yet. There's 8 seasons, and I just got these two so far. Game of Thrones is one of my favorite TV shows of all time next to Breaking Bad. Even though Season 8 wasn't perfect, I still think the show is spectacular. Up first, I have 10 Cloverfield Lane, such a surprise movie that came out in 2016. I had no idea what to expect going in. There was a small Super Bowl trailer, and then when I saw it in theaters, I was blown away by it. John Goodman gave me the creeps. 10 Things I Hate About You, such a great, surprising romantic comedy. Heath Ledger, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. It just has some great realistic scenes to it. Just didn't feel like a romantic comedy. 12 Years a Slave, Best Picture winner in 2013. Chiwetel Ejiofor, Michael Fassbender, such great performances in it. Steve McQueen directed a great film that I'm personally never going to watch again, but I own it. 21 Jump Street and 22 Jump Street, some of the best comedies to come out in this past decade. Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill, this made them into likable actors, especially Channing Tatum. I really like any movie he pops in now, and Ice Cube's so good in both these movies. Really enjoy both of them. An underrated sports movie, 42. Chadwick Boseman, this was like his first breakout performance. Thought he was great as Jackie Robinson. Harrison Ford as well gave a really underrated performance. Just such a great true story about Jackie Robinson and had the feels to it. 300. This is Sparta. Zack Snyder, this is like the Zack Snyderish of all his films. Just such an epic movie. Gerard Butler gives such an over-the-top performance, but it's so worth it. 300. Then we have an absolute classic from Stanley Kubrick, 2001: A Space Odyssey. If you talk about the biggest classic Stanley Kubrick movies, it's this, The Shining, and Full Metal Jacket. And 2001: A Space Odyssey, I haven't seen it yet, but I own it, so I'll watch it at some point. Abominable, a really surprised DreamWorks animated movie that came out last year. Just had all those sweet feels to it, beautiful, gorgeous animation, such an underrated score as well. Really love the Yeti creature in here. Abominable, watch it if you haven't seen it. One of the most underrated movies that came out this past decade is The Accountant. Gavin O'Connor makes some great movies. Warrior, and now add this to his collection. Ben Affleck, such an underrated performance. Plays such an accountant hitman. Watch it if you haven't seen it. Street Rat Riff Raft, I don't buy that. Aladdin, the classic Aladdin. I absolutely love Aladdin. Who doesn't love it? I love Robin Williams as the genie, just such great animation, and it's such a rewatchable Disney classic. And a surprising film that came out that was a remake. Aladdin 2019. I think it's one of the biggest surprises last year. Wasn't expecting anything of it. Guy Ritchie was directing it. Will Smith looked terrible as the genie in those photos, and he was the best part of the movie. Manal Musaad and Naomi Scott were great as well. Really enjoyed Aladdin, and such a fun rewatch. Alien, Ridley Scott, definitely my favorite movie of his. Alien was such a great horror movie, suspenseful as hell, and Sigourney Weaver gives one of the best performances in horror. She was so great as Ripley. Aliens was really Sigourney Weaver's breakout performance. She was nominated for an Oscar, such well-deserved, because she was incredible in Aliens. And just James Cameron's action elements he added into the sequel were so iconic. An underrated installment in the Alien franchise is Alien Covenant. I actually really enjoyed Alien Covenant. I know a lot of people didn't like the movie. I thought Ridley Scott added those alien elements I loved from the original. And the Prometheus elements weren't perfect, but I love Michael Fassbender in this. The Amazing Spider-Man. It's an movie. I don't hate it, but I think the Mark Webb Spider-Man movies, except Amazing Spider-Man 2, which is absolutely atrocious. I thought Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone were the saving parts of this movie. I could care less for the lizard, though. He looked atrocious. The concrete scene, my goodness. American History X. Great movie, but I'm probably not going to watch it again. Christy, don't just stare at it, eat it! American Psycho, the classic of all Christian Bale movies. I think his best and most iconic performance to date as Patrick Bateman. And I have to return some videotapes, so let's go to the next movie. Ant-Man, definitely if you compared this with Guardians of the Galaxy, I would say this is the biggest surprise possible in the MCU because they switched directors. Edgar Wright was going to direct Ant-Man, and now Peyton Reed steps in, and he makes a total surprise MCU installment. Paul Rudd is excellent as Ant-Man, and I just love the comedy back and forth. Just so awesome. Great heist movie. But the sequel, Ant-Man and the Wasp, was definitely a step down from the original, but I do enjoy this sequel. On rewatches, it has gone down in my MCU ranking. I thought Walton Goggins in this movie would really drag this movie down. He did not need it to be in it as long as he did, but still, I really enjoyed Giant Man in this movie. My man, Aquaman, such a surprise DCU installment. I expected nothing from this movie, and I had a blast with it. James Wan had a great world, great visuals to it, and Jason Momoa as Aquaman, so awesome. It's so beautiful to look at. Another Best Picture winner, Argo, Ben Affleck. Surprising directorial effort in here, and Argo was not my pick for Best Picture in 2012. That would be Django Unchained, but still, Argo's a really solid movie. I don't absolutely love it, but I appreciate what Ben Affleck did in here. Michael Bay making Armageddon, one of his most cheesy, iconic movies of all time. Armageddon, it is a stupid classic, but it's a fun time watch with Bruce Willis and Ben Affleck involved. And the Michael Bay aspects in this movie are so obvious, but it's kind of enjoyable, I guess. One of Denis Villeneuve's best movies, Arrival. This movie came out at a time where I was going to the movies a lot. Unfortunately, when I saw it the first time, I did fall asleep the last act, but rewatching it, I absolutely love Arrival. Denis Villeneuve, we don't deserve him as a director. He is incredible. Avatar, definitely one of the most overrated movies of all time for sure. James Cameron made one of the most highest grossing films of all time, which was surpassed by Endgame. I have not watched Avatar in a long time. I've only seen it once, so I'll rewatch it at some point. Now we're getting into the Avengers movies. The first Avengers, such a great movie. If you talk about a team-up movie that we didn't think we would get at first, and it succeeded. And many studio blockbusters try to do this concept that Marvel did, and they absolutely fail. Avengers Age of Ultron was a step down, but I still really enjoyed this movie. It is a solid sequel. Ultron is kind of a disappointing villain, throwing out jokes left to right, but I love James Spader. One of my favorite MCU movies, Avengers Infinity War. Thanos is one of my favorite movie villains of all time. Just him as the main character was the perfect choice for Marvel to do, and our heroes are at the biggest stakes possible facing off against him. But my favorite MCU movie is Avengers Endgame. This ended off a great 11-year journey in Infinity Saga that we absolutely love. And just this movie, so iconic. Avengers Assemble. Yes! Baby Driver! Edgar Wright, one of the best directors working today, and I really enjoyed Baby Driver. Seen it a couple times, but gotta rewatch it leading into Last Night in Soho. Looking forward to that. 1.21 gigawatts! Back to the Future trilogy. This is a must-own if you have a Blu-ray collection, because these movies are absolutely iconic. I love all three of these movies, even though the other two films have issues. The first one is obviously my favorite. It's just so iconic. It's Back to the Future. Bad boys, what you gonna do? I'm not gonna sing the song, but Bad Boys 1 and 2, Michael Bay-ism action movies. Just seen these movies recently leading into Bad Boys for Life. Go check that out on my channel. But Bad Boys 1 and 2, I'm not the biggest fan of these movies, but I do kind of enjoy them as guilty pleasures. The first one, kind of my favorite, but the third one is obviously my favorite. But I love Martin Lawrence and Will Smith, though. They're great. Now we're getting into the Batman movies. The entire Batman 4 movie collection. Batman 89, Batman Returns, Batman Forever, and Batman and Robin. Do not ask me why I own it, but I'll only watch basically the first two I just said. And the other ones, no Batman boobs, please. Batman Mask of the Phantasm. I actually watched this movie for the first time last year, and it's incredible, man. I don't know why I've been waiting so long to watch this movie, but I love Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill as Batman and Joker. Just such a great movie. If you have not seen Mask of the Phantasm, watch it. Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises in Blu-ray. These are some of my favorite movies of all time. I love this trilogy. Christopher Nolan, I thank you with all of my heart. I love them so much that I bought them on 4K. The Dark Knight is my favorite one, by far. One of my favorite movies of all time. Then Batman Begins, incredible. And The Dark Knight Rises, I absolutely love. I do have the Ultimate Edition for Batman v Superman. Even though I'm not a huge fan of Batman v Superman, both cuts, the Ultimate Edition is a slight improvement, but I don't love it. But still, Ben Affleck is great as Batman, and Henry Cavill was kind of eh. And Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman is beautiful and sexy, but no Doomsday or Lex Luthor. A Beautiful Mind, Russell Crowe, excellent performance, an Academy Award, well deserved. Ron Howard just paints a beautiful painting with this movie. I haven't seen it in a while, but I remember seeing this in film class, and it floored me. The live-action version of Beauty and the Beast. I don't have the animated movie yet. What's wrong with me? Well, I have Disney Plus, so I don't need to buy the animated one. But still, I have not seen this movie in a while, but Emma Watson was not amazing in this movie. But still, I love Dan Stevens as the Beast and Luke Evans as Gaston. Big Daddy, one of my favorite Adam Sandler movies of all time. It's right behind Uncut Gems personally, but I love Big Daddy. I love Adam Sandler's performance in here with the Sprouse brothers. Just such a great comedy. One of Sandler's best comedies to date, up there with The Wedding Singer as well. Ba-la-la-la-la. Big Hero 6, such a great movie. Just brings all the emotions out on me when I watch that final ending of the movie. Baymax is so adorable. Love Baymax and Hero's relationship. Just such a great movie with superhero vibes to it. It's a Marvel movie in Disney form. The Dude Abides. The Big Lebowski. Just a big classic comedy. Jeff Bridges in The Big Lebowski, so great as the dude. It's just so iconic. Avengers Endgame was inspired by this movie with fat Thor Lebowski. Just an excellent comedy. One of the most surprising movies of this past decade was The Big Sick, which came out a few years ago. Saw this movie on Blu-ray, was wondering what the hype was about, and I love this movie. Kumail Nanjiani, this gave us him, excellent performance from him. This one original screenplay, it's such a great true story that you guys need to check out. Spike Lee's BlacKkKlansman, my favorite Spike Lee movie, probably. I love BlacKkKlansman. John David Washington, I can't wait to see him in Tenet, because I loved him in BlacKkKlansman. He was so snubbed for Best Actor. Adam Driver is also great as well. Just such a great movie with great messages to it. Spike Lee nailed it. Wakanda Forever, Black Panther. One of the more divisive MCU movies. A lot of people hate this movie, think it's okay, or love it like me. I love Black Panther. Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther is great. The cultural impact is amazing. And Michael B. Jordan as Eric Killmonger, one of the best MCU villains to date. Blade Runner, the final cut, and Blade Runner 2049. The first Blade Runner, I remember watching this movie for the first time a few years ago, and I didn't love it. I mean, I watched the final cut, which is, I hear, the best cut. I just wasn't fully invested with it yet. But Blade Runner 2049 is amazing. One of my favorite movies of the decade. Denis Villeneuve, one of my favorite filmmakers. Just, this movie's so good. It takes everything from the first one and makes it leagues and leagues better. The most underrated movie that came out last year, Blinded by the Light. If you have not seen this movie, watch it. If you have dreams and passions, watch this movie. Because it's about this guy who has a love for Bruce Springsteen, and he uses Bruce Springsteen's songs to get him through life and try to prove his Pakistani family wrong and live his dreams. Such a great movie. Watch it for yourself. Blood Diamond, a really underrated Leonardo DiCaprio performance. He's really great in here as the South African guy. Just such a really interesting movie in here. Edward Zwick directed this, and it's just really gritty that I have to rewatch sometime. Booksmart, really great movie that came out last year. Olivia Wilde's directorial debut. Really love Caitlin Dever and Beanie Feldstein. They were great together in this movie. Just such a great raunchy comedy as well as a coming-of-age story that just worked everything perfectly. The Bourne Identity, The Bourne Supremacy, The Bourne Ultimatum, The Bourne Legacy, and yeah, I have Jason Bourne. I'm a completionist, but absolutely love the Bourne franchise. The Bourne Ultimatum is my favorite personally. I just think the action sequences in those movies are so underrated and excellent, and Matt Damon is Jason Bourne. Brave, a very under-the-weather type of Pixar movie. It's an movie. Like, it's a one watch that I had to watch ranking all the Pixar movies, but it's not my favorite Pixar movie all around. Merida is a very good character, but could care less about the overall story. It's fine. Brawl in Cell Block 99. I watched this movie and it was hard to get through, but it was a good movie. Regardless, Vince Vaughn gives a really great performance in here. It's only a one watch, really only for me. Haven't seen Dragged Across Concrete yet, but this is the same director that did this, and tough movie to watch. The Breakfast Club, one of the biggest classics of the 80s. Really enjoyed this movie all around and love all the characters to it, especially John Bender. Please do not remake this movie. Bridesmaids, Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig, Paul Feig, just one of possibly his best movie to date, as everybody says. I haven't seen it in a while though. I'll have to rewatch it to refresh memories. A Bug's Life, the most underrated Pixar movie in my opinion. Love flick, love the animation, Hopper, great villain. Just such a great underrated story to it that has heart to it, about a guy doing anything possible to help his village. And I just really enjoy this movie all around. Bumblebee, the best Transformers movie by far. Travis Knight, the director of Kubo and the Two Strings, knocked it out of the park. Haley Steinfeld, John Cena, and Bumblebee were awesome in this movie. And such a heartwarming tale for kids. They'll love it. I love it. Cabin in the Woods. Haven't seen this movie, but I've heard many people talk about it, say it's such a great horror comedy that I have to check out. Call Me By Your Name. Very beautiful movie all around. Timothy Chalamet, Armie Hammer give great, excellent performances in it. Such a beautifully shot movie. A Luca Guadagnino well-directed movie. Haven't seen Suspiria yet, his second effort, but I just really enjoyed the tones in here. But I probably won't watch it again, to be honest. The Captain America trilogy, First Avenger, Winter Soldier, and Civil War. You guys know I love the Captain America trilogy. Captain America is my favorite MCU hero by far. Civil War is possibly my favorite, then Winter Soldier. Excellent sequel, and First Avenger. I think all three of these movies are excellent. Captain Marvel, probably the most meh and underwhelming MCU movie to date. It's not awful by any means, but I cannot rewatch this movie after multiple rewatches. Brie Larson was kind of disappointing for me in all honesty, and Samuel L. Jackson saves this entire movie and makes it watchable. I know, give me the comments. Cars 1, Cars 2, and Cars 3. Yeah, I have all three Cars movies. Yeah. Castaway. Tom Hanks, one of his most iconic performances. And it's just him stuck on an island. He just plays with a volleyball and just plays with fire. It's a really cool movie. I think Tom Hanks gives a better performance in Catch Me If You Can. Possibly top 3 Spielberg movies for me personally. I just love him and Leonardo DiCaprio in this movie. And it's just such a great chase-em movie. And Spielberg makes it so clever. Just absolutely clever. Love the score to this. One of my favorite movies possibly. Now we're getting to some Christmas movies. A Charlie Brown Christmas. Such a great TV special to watch every single Christmas. So short and beautiful animation to it that still holds up today. My brother, one of his favorite Christmas movies, A Christmas Story. I have not watched this movie in a while, if I'm going to be honest with you. It's a fine movie all around. I know a lot of people love A Christmas Story, but I just haven't rewatched it in a long time that I need to refresh my memory. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. I haven't seen this movie yet, but I bought it for Christmas and I didn't watch it yet. So, can't have my opinions yet on it. Oh, Christopher Robin. Christopher Robin. This was such a sweet movie all around. Brings the emotions to it. It's impossible to hate on this movie because Winnie the Pooh and Ewan McGregor give great performances all around. It's sweet, it's charming, it does everything that 2011 Winnie the Pooh did, but in live action. Chronicle. Haven't seen this movie yet, but I've heard many people praise it, saying a great found footage superhero movie, and it's from Josh Trank. He did Stick, but looking forward to checking it out. The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I love this movie. I have not watched it in a while though, but I did see this one in theaters, I believe, and I loved it. I think the Chronicles of Narnia franchise is super underrated. And I just really enjoyed these movies that I need to rewatch them again. Cinderella, shout out to Dave Lee Down Under. I won his Blu-ray giveaway for this. So, Cinderella. Haven't watched it in a long time since I was a kid. And it's never been one of my favorite Disney movies, but because I was building my Disney collection until Disney Plus came out. An underrated Spielberg movie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Such a shocking movie, disturbing, but really clever. Spielberg, he knew what he was doing. Coco, one of the best Pixar movies, hands down. I'm a musician, I'm a former musician, but I just love this movie all around. The emotions get to me, the characters are so realistic, the story, everything about this movie is why I love Pixar. Collateral, possibly top 3 Tom Cruise movies. Collateral, just such an excellent movie. Tom Cruise as a villain, we want to see him more as a villain because he's great as Vincent Vega. And Jamie Foxx, he was nominated for 2 Oscars for Best Actor for Ray and Supporting Actor for Collateral. He was great in here, Jamie Foxx. Just such a great Michael Mann movie. Love that nightclub sequence. Another action movie that's on a different level is Con Air. Put the bunny back in the box. Con Air, Nicolas Cage, so over the top in this movie, but I freaking love Nicolas Cage in here. John Malkovich as Cyrus the Virus, that's a real character, and defines this movie. The Conjuring, definitely one of the most groundbreaking horror movies that came out this past decade. James Wan did both Conjuring movies so spectacularly. This was a really creepy movie all around. I prefer The Conjuring 2, which I don't have yet on Blu-ray, but I love what Wan did in here with the first Conjuring. Coraline, one of my favorite Laika Studios movies. Such an excellent, creepy, disturbing movie for kids all around, and adults, they will eat this movie up, and I did. Crawl, my newest purchase I just picked up today, and I loved Crawl. This was such a breakout movie that came out last year, an alligator chompy horror thriller, and it's just full of those scares, suspense that I want in a movie like this. Crazy Rich Asians, such a surprise movie, really good comedy, but it also had great feels to it, and I really liked Awkwafina in this movie. She was the scene stealer. Darkest Hour, haven't seen this movie yet. I hear Gary Oldman is very transformative. Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2, really great action movies in the R-rated superhero genre. Ryan Reynolds perfectly cast as Deadpool. The first one is obviously the best. The second one, it's a really solid sequel, but it does have issues to it. Still really enjoy the chimichangas. Deepwater Horizon, such a really great true story. Mark Wahlberg and Peter Berg, whenever they collaborate together, it's just golden. And this was such a great movie all around, direction and story-wise. The Departed, my favorite Scorsese movie. I love this movie, such a great Boston crime movie. And Scorsese really went into those Boston gang routes. And Leonardo DiCaprio, Matt Damon, Jack Nicholson, Mark Wahlberg, excellent performances. Detective Pikachu, really fun movie. I'm not a Pokemon fan, but I thought Ryan Reynolds was such a great surprise as the voice of Pikachu. And it's just full of that Pokemon nostalgia that is towards fans, but I just really enjoyed the comedy in here. Die Hard collection, I have all 4. There's another one, but we don't talk about that one. The first Die Hard is the best. Come on. I love the first Die Hard. It's just such a great Christmas movie, action movie. Hans Gruber and Bruce Willis were so great in here. And the other installments are really enjoyable, but it doesn't live up to the first one. What a story, Mark. Ha 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 ha. The Disaster Artist. A great movie all around. Tommy Wiseau, a movie about him, played by James Franco, just about him making his best, worst movie of all time, The Room. I just love that A24 put the passion into this movie. James Franco was totally robbed of an Oscar nomination. Just such great messages to it and very hilarious. My favorite Tarantino movie, Django Unchained. Leonardo DiCaprio, why wasn't he nominated for supporting actor? Really love Christoph Waltz, really good win. And Jamie Foxx as Django, just the most rewatchable Tarantino movie for me. Doctor Strange, one of the more overrated MCU movies. I enjoyed Doctor Strange, but I didn't love it like a lot of people did. It has a lot of forced humor, unfortunately, from Juan's perspective, trying to make him laugh. But still, the visual effects were absolutely out of this world, and Benedict Cumberbatch was perfect casting for Doctor Strange. What are they going to do for the sequel, though? Scott Derrickson is out. I don't know. Dredd. What a surprise hit this movie was. Carl Urban as Judge Dredd was absolutely fantastic. There was no sequel, unfortunately, but I'm hoping it comes someday. I own Dumb and Dumber 2, but I don't own the first one. Yeah, I know, I'm stupid. Dumbo, the original 1941 animated classic. Just a really short movie, but it has that Disney classic vibe to it. I don't think it's one of the best Disney movies all around, but it is very sweet and charming. One of the most overrated movies this past decade, Dunkirk. Now, Christopher Nolan is one of my favorite directors of all time. Love the majority of his movies. As far as Dunkirk, it's one of my least favorite Nolan movies, unfortunately. While I understand it wasn't made around character development, I just wasn't fully grasped with the story and the characters surrounding it. And it's a good made movie. I appreciate the technical elements, though. Edge of Tomorrow, one of my favorite movies of 2014. This was a huge surprise next to the Lego movie. Nobody expected this movie to be good. It had awful trailers, but it's great, excellent. Doug Liman directed this. Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt give really great performances in here. I'm hearing a sequel is coming out or being made. I hope it comes out soon, because Edge of Tomorrow is such a classic. 8th Grade, Bo Burnham's directorial debut for an A24 film. He did great. I really enjoyed 8th Grade. Elsie Fisher, such a great performance. Elf! Well, my favorite Christmas movie by far. I love Elf. Will Ferrell gives possibly the most likable Christmas performance of all time as Buddy the Elf. Just so funny. Such a classic. Buddy the Elf, what's your favorite color? The Equalizer. It's a Denzel Washington movie. Watch this leading up to the sequel. It's fine, but I won't watch it again. E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Elliot. Ex Machina, one of my favorite movies this past decade in the sci-fi category. Alicia Vikander, Oscar Isaac, and Donald Gleason killed it. The Exorcist, not the scariest movie ever, but very well made. Fantastic Mr. Fox, one of Wes Anderson's best movies to date. I haven't watched it in a while, but I really love the animation in here. George Clooney and Meryl Streep, just a classic of all Wes Anderson movies. The Farewell. Why wasn't this movie nominated for any Oscars? Are you kidding me? The Farewell is one of the best made movies last year. Lulu Wang, such a great true story aspect to it. And Awkwafina and Zhao Zhuzhen, I feel bad for you. Fargo. It's a classic Coen Brothers movie. Out of all the Coen Brothers movies, this is a must-own in your Blu-ray collection. I have the entire Fast and Furious franchise. Fast and Furious 1, Fast and Furious 2, Too Fast and Furious, Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, Fast and Furious 4, Fast 5, Fast and Furious 6, Furious 7, Fate of the Furious, and Hobbs and Shaw. They're dumb, fun Taco Bell movies, as Sean Chandler calls them. Fences. Really solid drama. Denzel Washington directing this movie. It's based off really of that play, but it's much more of a realistic version to it. Denzel and Viola Davis give some of the best performances of that year. Rule number 1, I can't talk about Fight Club, but I will anyway, because Fight Club is one of David Fincher's best movies. Brad Pitt and Edward Norton, they know how to brawl. Finding Nemo and Finding Dory, just beautifully animated movies. Finding Nemo is obviously the superior film, one of my favorite Pixar movies, and it's one of the most quotable and rememberable in terms of its characters. Finding Dory, however, it's fine. It's a watchable sequel. Not amazing or anything, but it is very cute. First Man, Damien Chazelle, his first time directing a space biopic about Neil Armstrong. Very good movie. It hasn't stuck with me though. I think First Man's a very good, solid movie. Definitely the weakest out of Damien Chazelle's movies. Ryan Gosling gives a very underrated performance in here. The Florida Project. I haven't watched this in its entirety yet. I only watched about 10 to 15 minutes of it. I haven't finished it, but I will at some point. But Willem Dafoe, he was nominated for an Oscar in here, but not for The Lighthouse. Are you kidding me? Laughing like a box of chocolate. Forrest Gump, man. This is obviously a must-own Blu-ray. Majority of these are must-owns, but this is one of the most must-owns. Frosty the Snowman, a Christmas classic that I watch every single Christmas. It's a Rankin Bass movie. I really enjoy their movies, and Frosty's one of my favorites. Let It Go. Frozen. Definitely the most overrated Disney movie in my personal opinion, and I'm sure many people agree. This movie, it is a good movie, but rewatching it, I think Frozen 2 is better, honestly. But this one, it had great songs though. Game Night, one of the best comedies that came out in that year. Jason Bateman is so hilarious in this movie, as well as, I forgot her name. Jason Bateman and Rachel McAdams were so great, so funny in this movie. When he gets shot and she is healing his wound, that is the funniest scene in this movie. Jordan Peele's breakout Oscar hit, Get Out. Get Out was such a great movie when it came out. Such a surprising movie. Nobody expected it to be good or even Oscar worthy. Jordan Peele, just such a great horror director he is. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters 1 and 2. The first one, it's a classic. Then the second one, not as good as the first one, but if you're a huge Ghostbusters fan, you like these two regardless, and these ones are really enjoyable. Girls Trip. Such a surprising movie that came out that year. Tiffany Haddish, this is really her only funniest performance, in all honesty. And Oprah Winfrey too was funny. It's just a surprisingly funny movie I didn't expect to enjoy. Another David Fincher movie, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, obviously a remake, but David Fincher did this one really well. Definitely one of the most divisive films last year, Glass. Such a disappointment for me personally. This was my third most anticipated movie last year. Had a great cast to it, but the ending really let me down. The first two acts were really enjoyable though. Bruce Willis, Sam Jackson, and James McAvoy. You have that cast, but you let us down with that ending, Shyamalan. Godzilla 2014 and Godzilla King of the Monsters. Big monster movies. This had like 5 minutes of Godzilla, and this had 25 plus minutes. These two movies have a lot of human characters to it I really didn't care about. I only cared about Bryan Cranston in the first one, but that's it. So, Gone Baby Gone. Ben Affleck knocked it out of the park with this movie. This is one of his best directed movies. Speaking of Ben Affleck, Gone Girl. Possibly one of my favorite David Fincher movies. I saw this in theaters and I was blown away by it. I was spooked out by Rosamund Pike's performance, and David Fincher, he knows how to do a thriller really well. The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. I haven't seen it yet. The Good Dinosaur, another kind of Pixar movie. I know my brother Cody absolutely loves this movie, but it's a fine movie all around, but there's obviously better ones. Good Time from the Safdie brothers. Robert Pattinson, a career-defining performance from him. They also did the same thing for Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems. The Safdies, they know what they're doing, man. Good Will Hunting, Robin Williams, so great in this film. Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, such an Oscar well-deserved. How do you like them apples? A Goofy movie. My brother bought this movie. He absolutely loves this film, and I've only seen it once. Gotta rewatch it though. I enjoyed it when I was a kid. Gravity. A very overrated movie that came out in 2013. Sandra Bullock and George Clooney in space. It's okay. Grease, one of my favorite musicals of all time. Just the songs in this movie are classic, and it's a story mixed with a musical, and I just really enjoyed what John Travolta did in here. Speaking of musicals, The Greatest Showman. This was a pretty musical all around. Really love Hugh Jackman in here though. The music is absolutely out of this world. But unfortunately, the story elements I really didn't care about. 2018's Best Picture winner, Green Book. I love Green Book. It was one of my favorite movies of 2018. Viggo Mortensen and Mahershala Ali. Such a great friendship and just such a feel-good movie I really enjoyed. Winding out the G's, Guardians of the Galaxy and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Just such fun MCU installments. The first one's one of my favorite MCU films. The most surprising one to come out. Who expected this to be good? But Volume 2, though, it's fine. It's enjoyable, but the first one outbeats this one. Hacksaw Ridge, my favorite movie of 2016. Mel Gibson, a triumphant return. Andrew Garfield as Desmond Doss, such a hero that went on to the battlefield and saved 80 people's lives. Such an excellent movie. I have the entire Halloween collection and Halloween 2018. The Halloween movies, I watched them for the first time leading up to this. A lot of these movies are bad except for the first one. And the newest Halloween installment, it is actually pretty solid. It hasn't stuck with me though. You like hot dogs? What? No. The Happening. Definitely the most enjoyable M. Night Shyamalan movie in terms of awfully but good movies. This movie's so bad it's hilarious. The dialogue is so bad, but I laugh out loud. Next I have the Harry Potter movies, all 8 of them, and the Fantastic Beasts movies, Where to Find Them, and Crimes of Grindelwald. I'm a completionist. I love the Harry Potter franchise. It's one of my favorite franchises of all time. All these movies are so great, but these ones though, The Hateful Eight. Really enjoyable Tarantino film, very long, icy cold dialogue, but in terms of rewatchability, I don't rewatch this one a lot like I do with like Django, but I really love Sam Jackson's monologue about you know what. The Hate U Give. I haven't seen this in its entirety yet. I think I watched like the first hour of it. It's a long movie, but I really enjoyed it so far. I'll have to finish it though. I'm hearing it's great. Hellboy and Hellboy 2: The Golden Army, really enjoyable movies. The second one is obviously the best one, but the first one had a lot of cool Del Toro gothic vibes to it. But this one had a better villain and a better story all around. But enjoy these movies, but was disappointed by the David Harbour one. Hell or High Water, such a surprise movie. Jeff Bridges, Chris Pine, and Ben Foster, such great performances. Great Western all around that was underrated when it came out. Hercules, a classic Disney installment, and beautiful animation and cool songs to it, and a cool villain, Hades. Just not one of the best Disney movies. Hereditary, one of my favorite horror movies this past decade, and Ari Aster's direction, Toni Collette's performance, just everything worked with this movie in terms of suspense. Hidden Figures, really enjoyable movie, really like the performances. The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey, The Hobbit: The Desolation of Smaug, and The Hobbit: The Battle of the Five Armies. The Hobbit trilogy, they're not Lord of the Rings. Home Alone 1 and 2. Really love both of these installments. Such fun Christmas movies. The first one's the best. They're just such fun movies. Hook. I hate Peter Pan. Really panned by critics on Rotten Tomatoes, but they're wrong because it's one of Spielberg's most iconic. How the Grinch Stole Christmas, really iconic animated Grinch installment, the best Grinch installment. To end off the H's, the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy, the first one, How to Train Your Dragon 2, and The Hidden World. My favorite animated trilogy of all time. Excellent storytelling. Watch these movies if you love storytelling. I, Tonya. Margot Robbie gives a breakthrough performance in here. Just a really Goodfellas type of movie, but in a sports aspect in here. I Am Legend, a really cool Will Smith movie. Just a zombie apocalypse thriller that is thrilling and action-packed, but I didn't enjoy the CGI aspects to it. If Beale Street Could Talk, Barry Jenkins, such a great director, and this was a solid sophomore effort from him in direction, and just such a great drama aspect to it. Inception, one of my favorite movies of all time. Everyone loves Inception. I love Inception. We'll be reviewing this as part of my Nolan series. Incredibles 1 and Incredibles 2. Fun Pixar movies with superheroes. The Incredible Hulk, the black sheep of the MCU. Edward Norton was really great in here. Hulk aspects were awesome, but could care less of it being an MCU installment. I have a steelbook for Raiders of the Lost Ark, but I do have the entire Indiana Jones collection. The Indiana Jones movies is a fun action franchise all around. Harrison Ford, if you compare him with Han Solo, people can make an argument this is his most iconic role. Inglourious Basterds, one of my favorite Tarantino movies. Christoph Waltz as Hans Landa, one of the best villains. Brad Pitt as Aldo Rain, such a cool character about the Nazis and Hitler. It is satisfying. Inside Out, one of my favorite Pixar movies. So emotional. Instant Family, if you have not seen this movie, watch it, because it's so funny and heartwarming. Interstellar, good Nolan movie, need to rewatch it though. Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, and Iron Man 3. Isle of Dogs, really cool Wes Anderson stop motion animated movie. Really enjoyed the dog characters in here, so clever. It's a Wonderful Life, one of my favorite Christmas movies to watch every single year. It's not even a Christmas movie till the last 20 minutes. Amazing movie. It, the 1990 miniseries, It 2017, and It Chapter 2. This one was this one was this one is good. Jaws, one of my favorite Spielberg movies, a must-watch every single year. Spielberg knows how to do that suspense really well. John Wick 1, John Wick 2, and John Wick 3 Parabellum. Excellent action movies in here that does action differently, but I think the third one does the action the best. Joker. Joaquin Phoenix gives the best performance of last year as the Joker Arthur Fleck. It's not really a DC comic book movie, but it's a art house film about a man that turns into a psychopath. And I love this movie. Jumanji, the original 1995 classic with Robin Williams. Such an iconic performance. Such a really fun movie to watch. And Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle, though, was a huge surprise. I did not expect to like this movie at all, but it was so good. I really love the characters in here, and The Rock's so good. The live-action installment of The Jungle Book by Jon Favreau, such a great movie. This is my Jungle Book movie all around. The live-action elements, the CGI, the visuals, just, I felt like I was in an actual jungle. Next, I have the Jurassic Park movies, the classic Jurassic Park, The Lost World, Jurassic Park 3, and Jurassic World. I don't have Fallen Kingdom, and I'm not gonna buy it. Justice League. I am a completionist with the DCU movies. Justice League, one of my least favorite all around. The comedy really didn't work in here. You could tell which one's the Whedon or the Snyder version. It just doesn't work. La La Land, Damien Chazelle doing a musical, and it works. It really feels like you're in the 1950s style. Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone, they have perfect chemistry. Lady Bird, Greta Gerwig, what a great directorial debut. Saoirse Ronan, great, excellent performance. Really true, great coming-of-age story that was pretty funny a lot. The Last Samurai, an underrated Tom Cruise movie all around, with those Japanese samurai elements, the action sequences. Edward Zwick knew what he was doing and what story he wanted to tell. Everything is awesome! I'm Batman. The Lego Movie, what a surprise this was. Everything is awesome with this and the Lego Batman movie. I might prefer this over the Lego Movie, but because I really enjoyed the Batman elements and Will Arnett stole the show. Oh man, why'd you spill your beans? Why'd you snub this movie, Oscars, for other categories except cinematography? Willem Dafoe was so good in here, and Robert Pattinson in The Lighthouse. Just such a great movie about two characters going insane on a lighthouse island. It's so good! The Lion King, my favorite Disney movie, one of my favorite movies of all time. Just, I could cry talking about this movie, it's so good. And I actually really like The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. I think it's a really underrated sequel. Long Shot, such a great rom-com that came out last year. Charlize Theron and Seth Rogen, they have great chemistry. And it's not just a rom-com, it does have a great story in here. Looper, Ryan Johnson doing sci-fi time travel, and this absolutely works. Love Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis. Just the time travel aspects Ryan Johnson does is super clever and very original at the time. Some of the best films ever made, according to a lot of people: the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and Return of the King. Ryan, why don't you own the extended editions? Maybe someday. Kiki's Delivery Service, one of Cody's favorite movies growing up, and I remember watching this, the only anime, and I really like it. Need to rewatch it though. Kill Bill Volume 1 and Kill Bill Volume 2, such fun action movies. Uma Thurman, she is beautiful, and she knows how to kick ass and take answers. King Kong, the true version of King Kong, Peter Jackson. Even though it was over 3 hours long, I still really enjoy this King Kong movie. Jack Black was really good in it as well. Could care less about the island parts, just want that big King Kong action. Kingsman: The Secret Service and Kingsman: The Golden Circle. What a disappointment this was. But this one, what a big surprise this was. 2015, saw it in theaters, was blown away by it. Absolutely blown away by it. That church scene. Ugh. Kong Skull Island. Really enjoy this movie. I'd say it's my favorite out of the MonsterVerse. The characters are pretty entertaining. The story was but Kong was awesome though. Kubo and the Two Strings, my favorite Laika movie. Great movie, great story. The animation is spectacular. And the journey these characters go on to finding destiny is perfect. The Kung Fu Panda trilogy. The first one, 2, and 3. I think these movies are great. The third one might be one of my favorites, but I think maybe the second one might be my favorite. But I don't know. I need to rewatch them. What a day. What a lovely day. Mad Max Fury Road, one of my favorite movies of 2015. One of my favorite action movies of the decade. Tom Hardy, Charlize Theron, they kick ass in here. George Miller, thumbs up. The Magnificent Seven, such a fun western. Chris Pratt stole the show for me, and Denzel Washington was such a badass in here. Manchester by the Sea, such a well-made movie. Very depressing. I literally was depressed after watching this movie because of what Kenneth Lonergan did, and Casey Affleck gave the performance of a lifetime. Man of Steel, one of my favorite comic book movies this past decade. It is very divisive, I understand, but I love what Zack Snyder did in here, and Henry Cavill is my Superman. I know Christopher Reeve, but he's mine. And I just love this movie and Hans Zimmer's score. The Martian, Ridley Scott, one of my favorites of his. Matt Damon gave a great performance in here. And Mark Watney, such an interesting character of traveling Mars and growing potatoes. So funny and heartwarming. Mary Poppins Returns, such a well-worthy installment to the 1964 classic. Emily Blunt, she was snubbed for an Oscar. She becomes Mary Poppins. She's not Julie Andrews, but she makes it her own. The Matrix, the first one. I love The Matrix. Who doesn't love The Matrix? Neo, Morpheus, and Trinity. That build-in fight scene, just everything about The Matrix is why I love action movies. The Maze Runner trilogy, Maze Runner, Scorch Trials, and Death Cure. These are pretty enjoyable movies. They're not amazing all around, but I like Dylan O'Brien as an actor. I think he's pretty underrated. The Meg, a really guilty pleasure with shark chompy aspects. Jason Statham fighting a giant shark. What more can you ask for? The Men in Black trilogy, they're iconic. $1 Million Baby, possibly the best Clint Eastwood movie, one of his best. Minority Report, Really love this movie. Spielberg, once again, took sci-fi, made it his own. It's clever. Laika Studios continues on with Missing Link, the Golden Globe winner for Best Animated Feature. Did it deserve it? No, but I really enjoy Missing Link. Love this movie, but there's better ones from last year. Mission Impossible movies, Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, Fallout, and the entire franchise. I love Mission Impossible, if you can't tell by how much I own. Fallout's obviously my favorite action movie of this past decade. Moana! Such a great movie. Full of great music, and Dwayne Johnson and Louis Carvalho. So great. Maui is such a really charismatic, likable character, and Moana as well. Monsters, Inc. In terms of classics, this is one of Pixar's classics, because Pete Docter knew what he was doing, and Mike and Sully as characters, they're hard not to like. And Monsters University was a step down, but was it necessary to go back to college with Mike and Sully? Why not get that Monsters Inc. too? I don't know. Moon, starring Sam Rockwell, directed by Duncan Jones. Haven't seen this yet, but I'm looking forward to checking it out. Moonlight, Best Picture winner for 2016, not La La Land. It won for 2 minutes. But Moonlight, excellently well-made movie. Barry Jenkins, what a director he is. Such a hard movie to watch, but beautifully told. Moonrise Kingdom, such a great Wes Anderson movie. Really love the quirky aspects to here. It has everything you love in a Wes Anderson movie, and I think it's his most clever out of all his films. Napoleon Dynamite. What happened to my tots, yo? The Nice Guys. Where is the sequel? Where? The Night at the Museum trilogy. Really enjoy all these movies, even the recent one. I like them. Nightcrawler. One of the best movies this past decade, hands down. Jake Gyllenhaal, hands down the worst snub in Academy history. Why? The Nightmare Before Christmas. It's a classic. Christmas movie and Halloween movie. What more can you ask for? Hey there, Nancy. Wanna play? The Nightmare on Elm Street collection. The first one and the third one are the only ones worth watching. No Country for Old Men. Javier Bardem, I Love You Forever. Nocturnal Animals. Haven't seen this movie yet. The Ocean's Trilogy. Really cool heist movies. I pretty much enjoy 1 and 3, not the second one, but Ocean's 8 though, it was pretty okay. I enjoyed it for what it was. I really enjoy you took the female aspects in here and made it your own, and it was pretty enjoyable. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Tarantino, one of my favorite movies last year. Brad Pitt winning so many awards, and Leonardo DiCaprio, great chemistry together. Took the Hollywood aspects and made Tarantino. Only the Brave. One of the most underrated movies this past decade. I don't know why people aren't talking about this movie or haven't seen it. It's a great true story. Watch it. Pacific Rim. The first Pacific Rim, I wasn't a huge fan of it like a lot of people were. It's by Guillermo del Toro. I guess it's okay and fine. The monster sequences, though, those are worth the watch. Paddington 2, I don't own the first one yet, but I love both of these movies. Paddington 2 was so excellent. I love this film all around. It's so sweet. Paranormal Activity, the first one is the best one and the only good one. I remember being legit terrified of this movie when I first saw it. Paranorman, one of my favorite Laika Studios movies. I just love this movie. It was so clever when it came out and full of really underrated characters and fun adventures. Patriots Day, one of Peter Berg's best, possibly my favorite of his true story films he did with Mark Wahlberg. I just love this movie. Patriots Day, I'm a Boston guy, and it did the Boston bombings perfectly. Peter Pan, classic of all Disney movies. It's Peter Pan. Phantom Thread with Daniel Day-Lewis. Haven't seen this yet. I don't know why I own it. Maybe it's good. The Pirates of the Caribbean movies. The classic one of all of them. The Curse of the Black Pearl. The best one. Dead Man's Chest. It was alright. At World's End and On Stranger Tides. No. And, Dead Men Tell No Tales. I actually really enjoyed this installment. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Haven't seen this yet. I've heard people telling me to check it out, but I will check it out sometime. The Polar Express, one of my favorite Christmas movies. Tom Hanks, he did multiple voices in this movie, and it's amazing. Power Rangers 2017. Unfortunately, we're not going to get a sequel to this because I really enjoyed this Power Rangers installment. I love the characters, their team-up vibes. It just totally worked for me. Predator Collection, the first one is the only good one. Get to the chopper now! Prometheus, wasn't a huge fan of Prometheus, like some people were. The space jockeys could care less about them and wasn't invested with the characters. Psycho, one of the best horror movies ever made. Alfred Hitchcock knows how to do suspense, and he inspired many filmmakers to do so. Pulp Fiction, Quarter Pounder with Cheese. Pulp Fiction, one of the best Tarantino movies, arguably his best though. And then I have the Purge movies. I don't know why I own them, I guess for a ranking. Anarchy is the best one in election year. They're kind of entertaining. Quiet Place. Quiet Place was so good. Can't wait for the sequel to come out this year. John Krasinski took the horror genre, spun it on its head, made a silent horror movie throughout most of it, and it worked. It worked. Rain Man, haven't seen this movie yet, but I heard it's one of Tom Cruise's best performances. The Rambo Collection, all 4 movies, and these are fun, guilty pleasure movies, but the first one is the only great movie of the bunch. Ratatouille, one of Cody's favorite Pixar movies, but for me personally, it's a good movie, not one of my top 5 favorites, but I enjoy what Brad Bird did in here. Another new pickup I just picked up today, Ready or Not. One of the biggest surprises last year. Fun slasher movie. Samara Weaving, what a breakout performance. Didn't expect it to be good, but I had a blast with it. Ready Player One, one of the more divisive Spielberg movies. It's a fun movie, but it hasn't stuck with me. It's fun, but in terms of rewatchability, it's not up there with Spielberg's classics, though. I enjoyed it. Remember the Titans. Haven't seen this in a while, but it's a really underrated movie. Reservoir Dogs, classic Tarantino, Mr. Pink, Mr. White, iconic scene. The Revenant, I thought this should have won Best Picture over Spotlight, because I love The Revenant. Leo, Tom Hardy in this grisly winter movie, spectacular. And I prefer it over Birdman. Revenge, one of the more underrated movies. This came out in 2018, I believe. I was really gritty watching this movie because it's unnerving. It's so uncomfortable to watch. You should definitely check it out. The Planet of the Apes trilogy, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and War for the Planet of the Apes. one of my favorite trilogies, Caesar is the GOAT. Rocket Man! Taron Egerton was so robbed from an Oscar nom. Why you gotta be, you killed me! Rocket Man was so good. Love the true story and Elton John. Taron Egerton killed it. The Rocky movies, the whole collection, Creed 1 and Creed 2. These are great sports movies. The Creed movies were so good. Love both of them. And the Rocky franchise, well, some are pretty but it's Stallone made these work. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, one of my favorite Christmas movies. 5 more piles to go. We're almost done. Let's power through this. The Sandlot, my favorite sports movie. You're killing me, Smalls. Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Not one of my favorite Rankin Bass Christmas movies, but I watch it pretty much every Christmas. Saving Private Ryan, one of my favorite Spielberg movies. Just, Spielberg did war perfectly in here in that opening D-Day battle. Scarface, haven't seen it yet. Don't kill me. Another movie I haven't seen yet. Schindler's List. Yeah. I call myself a movie reviewer. Anyway, let's continue. School of Rock. Possibly my favorite Jack Black comedy. I love the School of Rock. Richard Linklater directed it. It's full of comedy and full of heartwarming. Jack Black gives a really good performance as Dewey Finn. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Edgar Wright taking the comic book genre, spinning it on its head in a manga version, and I just love Michael Cera in here as Scott Pilgrim. Searchin', one of my favorite movies of 2018. John Cho should have gotten an Oscar nomination. As a found footage movie, it works. The story works, and it's well done. 7, one of David Fincher's best movies. Kevin Spacey, Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman. They nailed it. What's in the box? The Shape of Water, Best Picture winner 2017. Guillermo del Toro made a beautiful looking romance movie, but it's not my movie. I've only seen it a couple times. I really like Michael Shannon though as the villain. The Cornetto trilogy. Haven't seen these yet, but I heard many people telling me to watch them. I know you Edgar Wright fans are pissed. The Shawshank Redemption, one of my favorite movies of all time. This movie is incredible. Shazam! What a surprise DCU installment. Zachary Levi just makes me smile. He works in here. I can't wait for the sequel. The Shining. I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in. I have Sicario and Sicario Day of the Soldado. The first Sicario was groundbreaking from Denis Villeneuve, and the sequel, not as amazing, but well shot. Going to M. Night Shyamalan, The Signs, really, it's a good movie. I don't absolutely love it, but I could totally see what Shyamalan was going for. Wasn't a fan of the twist. The Sixth Sense, though, I See Dead People, is one of my favorites from Shyamalan. Skyfall, possibly my favorite Bond movie. I need to rewatch Casino Royale. Just love this movie. Sam Mendes, what he did with this Bond installment, totally worked. But it didn't work for Spectre, though. It's one of the weakest out of the Daniel Craig Bond movies, but was really let down by this. Not really looking forward to No Time to Die. Not yet. Slumdog Millionaire, Danny Boyle. Just haven't seen it in a while, but it's entertaining, I guess. Did it deserve Best Picture? Probably not. The Social Network, one of the best movies of 2010. I think Inception should have won Best Picture, and then The Social Network or Toy Story 3 instead of The King's Speech. because David Fincher did a great job with The Social Network. Jesse Eisenberg gives his best performance as Mark Zuckerberg. Sorry to bother you. The most overrated movie of 2018, hands down. Space Jam. Just a classic sports movie with Michael Jordan in it, and the Bugs Bunny, and all the other characters in here. I haven't seen it in a while though, but I used to rewatch it a lot as a kid. Next, we go into the Spider-Man movies, the Sam Raimi trilogy, Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, and Spider-Man 3. I enjoy all three of these movies. Spider-Man 2 is my favorite, and Spider-Man 3, don't hate it, I do like it. Next I got Spider-Man Homecoming. It's a fine movie. I don't absolutely love it, but I thought Tom Holland is my favorite Spider-Man, and I love Michael Keaton as the Vulture. Spider-Man Far From Home was definitely an improvement. Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio was great, and just the London aspects, going away from New York, totally made it more fun and unique. You would ask me what my favorite Spider-Man movie is, it might be Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, because I absolutely love everything about this movie, and this is how animated movies should be moving forward. Can't wait for the sequel. Spirited Away! Haven't seen it. Jay Vader's dislikes. Split. Definitely one of my favorite Shyamalan movies. And James McAvoy, totally robbed from an Oscar nomination. He was so good in here, playing 23 personalities. And Anya Taylor-Joy was so good in here. Really surprising film from Shyamalan. A Star Is Born, one of my favorites from 2018. Everything Bradley Cooper did with that remake, great. Now we go into the Star Trek movies that I haven't seen yet. Star Trek 2009, and Into Darkness. I heard people tell me, if you're not into Star Trek, it's fine, but I hear they're pretty good. Now, what I'm totally into is Star Wars, if you didn't know. The original trilogy, Empire Strikes Back, my favorite by far. The prequel trilogy, which is pretty good. Force Awakens, what a great film. Rogue One, the most underrated Star Wars movie, for sure. Last Jedi, I really like it. Sorry, haters. And Solo: A Star Wars Story. Step Brothers, one of my favorite comedies of all time. I love Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly as these two characters. The jokes they throw at each other are laugh out loud hysterical. Really love Step Brothers. Straight Outta Compton, what a great true story biopic about the NWA. Definitely check this out. Stronger, Jake Gyllenhaal, great performance in here. Another Boston Ballman true story film that you guys should check out if you haven't seen. Yeah, Suicide Squad. Again, I'm a completionist for the DCU movies. I have Suicide Squad. Okay, let's move on. Tangled, one of the best Disney revival age movies. Classic. Terminator 1, Terminator 2, and the entire collection. Yeah, I love Terminator, as you can tell. Terminator 2 is my favorite, in case you didn't know. Thelma and Louise, haven't seen this movie yet, but I've heard many recommendations to check it out. John Carpenter's The Thing, possibly one of my favorite horror movies of all time, and remakes. Just John Carpenter, Kurt Russell, they made that movie work with what they did. Thor The Dark World, and Thor Ragnarok as a trilogy. It's pretty okay, but Ragnarok is definitely my favorite of the three. 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. I was definitely pushing for this for Best Picture against Shape of Water because I love what they did in 3 Billboards. Sam Rockwell gives such a great performance in here, and Frances McDormand was awesome. Titanic, James Cameron, my favorite of his movies for me. I love Titanic, Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet, iconic characters, and it made that iconic event work. Top Gun, I feel the need for speed. We'll be reviewing this leading up to Top Gun Maverick, just so you guys know. And Top Gun, it's a classic. Like, out of Tom Cruise's movies, it's the most rewatchable. Next, we go into the Toy Story movies. I'm such a Toy Story fan that I double dipped. So I got the original trilogy all on 4K steelbooks. Really nice artwork for all of them. Yeah, that's nice. And Toy Story 4, separate owned 4K steelbook. Very nice. And, of course, I had the original trilogy on regular Blu-ray. That's obviously because, you know, before Disney Plus was a thing. Next got Training Day, Antoine Fuqua and Denzel Washington. My favorite Denzel Washington performance. He was so good in this movie, Denzel. Oh boy, yeah. I don't own them. I don't know. I'm not. Damn it! WALL-E. Definitely the most overrated Pixar movie. I get why people like it, but in terms of a story, it's just not that immersive to me. I really enjoyed the couple aspects with Wall-E and Eve, but it could work better as a short. Warrior, definitely a really great movie. Tom Hardy and Joel Edgerton, excellent performances. Gavin O'Connor, his best movie. Watchmen, haven't watched it in a while. Whiplash, my favorite movie of the decade. Are you Russian or Dragon? Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Haven't seen it. Wind River, such a great suspenseful movie. Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch. The Witch, really good horror movie from Robert Eggers. The Lighthouse is better though. The Wizard of Oz, I'd say this is my favorite musical of all time. Yeah. The Wolf of Wall Street, Martin Scorsese. Quaaludes hookers, y'all. Wonder Woman, my favorite DCEU movie so far. Gal Gadot, marry me. Won't You Be My Neighbor? Why wasn't this nominated for documentary feature? What the heck? World War Z. Heard the sequel's coming out. It hasn't come out yet. David Fincher. Wreck-It Ralph. One of my favorite revival age Disney movies. I think the most rewatchable. Ralph Breaks the Internet. Wasn't as good as the first one, but it's such a sweet, fun movie. Unbreakable, my favorite Shyamalan movie, hands down. Uncle Drew, a fun NBA basketball movie with Kyrie Irving dressed as an old man. Up, one of my favorite Pixar movies. That opening montage kills me. Upgrade, such a huge surprise and really great action scenes. Logan Marshall Green did well. Us, Jordan Peele's sophomore effort. Rewatching it multiple times, it's good, but not amazing as I thought to be. Lupita should have got that Oscar. V for Vendetta, one of the best comic book movies that isn't really a Captain America MCU movie. So good, so good. Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. I don't know why I own this. And Venom. Looking forward to what Andy Serkis does with the sequel, but Tom Hardy eats a lobster. Last pile! Woo! X-Men 1. X2, X-Men United. X-Men the... First Class. The Wolverine. Days of Future Past. Apocalypse, and 2 versions of Logan, because I love Logan, if you can't tell. Yeah, I own the X-Men franchise. You can tell I'm a fan. Zero Dark 30. Really good movie. Haven't watched it. I only watched it once. Zombieland. Nut Up or Shut Up. Really love Zombieland. Love rewatching it every year. And my newest pickup today, Zombieland Double Tap. Haven't opened it yet, but was really surprised by this sequel. The gang came back together 10 plus years later, and it worked as a sequel, surprisingly. And finally, Zootopia, one of my favorite Revival Age Disney movies. Such a great movie. Out of all Disney's movies, this was definitely the most adult of all of them. There you have it, guys. Woo! That is all the Blu-rays I went through. 486 Blu-rays. That is counting collections. So yeah, that's all of my Blu-ray collection. Thank goodness I'm done, guys. Thank you so much for watching this entire video. I thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. And once again, if you are new to this channel, if this is your first time checking out one of my videos, and if you enjoyed this Blu-ray video, please hit that like button, guys. I really do appreciate it. Hit that like button, as well as click that subscribe button for more reviews, reactions, rankings, and more movie content. Guys, that's it for the Blu-ray collection video for 2020. Let me know what you guys thought of my Blu-rays and your Blu-rays down below. Thank you for watching, guys. All my social media links are in the description below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!